People need to slow down with their takes on the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was on Twitter the other day after they won their first playing game when they beat the Pelicans and saw multiple tweets of something along the lines of, within the next decade, the Thunder are going to win multiple NBA titles. The Thunder are going to win an NBA title soon. The Thunder this, the Thunder that. People were over the top excited after the win against the Pelicans. And obviously last night they get beat by 25 by the Timberwolves. First thing to remember about that Pelicans win, the Pelicans didn't have Zion. Okay? They barely beat the Pelicans in a game where the Pelicans didn't have their best player. Let's remember that. And then last night, they lose because of their lack of size and things like that. And, of course, the response to that would be, but, Chet's coming soon. Chet's coming soon. Right? And I understand the excitement built around this Oklahoma City Thunder team because they have a lot of good, young talent, right? They're the second youngest team in the NBA, and they're really talented. SGA is a really good player. Both of the Jalen Williamses, I like them both. Obviously, the Jalen Williams from Santa Clara, that's probably going to be runner-up in Rookie of the Year. That's a really good, talented player. Chet's coming. People still have high hopes for him. Giddey's awesome, right? He goes for 31 against the Pelicans. So on and so forth. This team has a lot of good young talent. They have 15 first-round picks within the next 3 years, which is impressive. But I think we're forgetting something that's really important here. The Thunder had Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook all on the same team. They had all three of them. And what did they not do? They did not win a championship. And the reason behind that is because James Harden leaves, right? He doesn't want to be a sixth man. He wants to go somewhere and be the guy. Great decision for James Harden, okay? One of the best decisions of his career, right? And then Russell Westbrook wants to be the guy, and Kevin Durant wants to be the guy, and they're young, and they're fighting for it because when you're the number one option in the NBA, you get max contract, you get max money, and no matter what anybody tells you, when it comes down to it, for a lot of these guys, for 99% of them, it comes down to getting paid. That's what it comes down to. And so maybe, when the first contract runs up, or when this next contract runs up, SGA wants to leave because he doesn't want to be in Oklahoma City. Okay, when Chet Holmgren comes back, Giddey and Jalen Williams are going to be options number 3 and 4. Do you really think that they want to be options number 3 and 4? Do you think that the Thunder are going to be able to afford to keep all 4 of those guys and supply them with the proper role players that they need? Okay, Lou Dort's kind of expensive right now. That's one of the best defenders in the league who's constantly developing his jump shot. He's so much better this year than he was last year. Maybe he wants to leave. Maybe somebody comes along and offers him an outrageous amount of money. And then he leaves. There's so many variables, and it is so hard to build a contender in the NBA. There's a reason why there's really only 1 or 2 teams that consistently stay afloat and stay at the top of the league. Golden State. I know they're 6th seed this year, but they had a lot of injuries. Boston, Milwaukee. Those 3 teams, I would say, over these past 3 or 4 years have been the most consistent in terms of that they're going to be good every time that they step out on the floor. And first of all, it's because the Golden State Warriors have the highest payroll in the NBA. It's because their owner just isn't afraid to spend money. And you're putting money on guys like Clay and Steph and Draymond Green, and you're paying they're not really paying the rookies, but they aren't afraid to go out and spend money. That's why they've stayed on top. The reason why the Boston Celtics have stayed on top is because Jaylen Brown's still cheap. That's why. Okay, his contract runs out at the end of this year. If he makes the All-NBA, he's eligible for the max and all those different types of things. And so, if you're Boston, you're hoping he doesn't make an All-NBA team, because if he does, then he becomes way more expensive. Then all of a sudden you can't afford Malcolm Brogdon and Al Horford and Marcus Smart and all these other guys that are major keys to that team. And when we look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, you can't sit here and tell me that they're going to run out of money at some point. They aren't going to have one of their guys get upset and leave. One of those 2 things are bound to happen. And because of that, I don't think that you can just slap on this idea of they're going to be one of the 4 best teams in the NBA here in a few years consistently. Because all it takes is one guy getting upset. We've seen it so many times in the NBA. We saw it this year with Brooklyn. They had two guys get upset, and now they're the 6th seed, and they're probably going to get beat in the first round when they play the Sixers. And so, I just think people need to slow down a little bit. Okay, on top of that, when we look at the best teams in the NBA, they have one of the 5 best players in the world on their team. Well, one of the 8 best players in the world on their team. With Boston, obviously they got Jason Tatum. When we look at the Bucks, they have the best player in the world in Giannis. When we look at Golden State, they've got one of the 5 best players in the world in Steph Curry. When we look at the 76ers, who are really good this year, they got one of the 10 best players in the world in Joel Embiid. When we look at the Nuggets, they have one of the 10 best players in the world in Nikola Jokic. And look, I really like SGA. I think he's awesome. But I don't think that he does what's necessary to take a team to a championship from just the simple standpoint of his game is built on mid-range jump shots. He's very Jimmy Butler-esque. That's kind of who he reminds me of. And just the way that he plays, obviously he's better than Jimmy Butler. I don't want people to freak out. But it's a lot of mid-range jump shots. It's a lot of trying to get to the free throw line. And look, in the NBA, if you want to win as a guard, you got to be able to knock down threes consistently. You do. And SGA I don't think he takes enough of them. I don't think he takes enough threes. They don't have enough shooting on their roster as a whole. I think we saw that last night. I mean, outside of Isaiah Joe, do you really trust any of their other shooters? I don't. But obviously, we are missing a piece of the puzzle with Chet, which there's concerns about Chet. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? Okay, we've never seen a player in the history of the NBA have a body type like that stay healthy over the course of a season. And so there's just so many unanswered questions. I understand the hype and the excitement around the Thunder, but slow down. Slow down. Do y'all remember a couple years ago when Charlotte was supposed to, the over-under set on their games was like 20-something, and then they won 40, and then people freaked out, and now they're terrible again? That's very possible. That could happen to the Thunder. I don't think it will. But slow down. That's all I'm saying. Slow down.